to be out here no more. I'm starting to get sick. I'm shaking real bad.
And now we have nothing. 4 years I'm outside. I need help, and nobody helps me now.
I haven't been able to go out there and try to really get nothing to eat because it's just too cold.
I've been homeless for approximately 2 years now.
We do whatever we can to keep ourselves warm inside.
The way I see it, if you're homeless, you have to try to survive, help each other, I guess, best way you can.
You're going to get frostbite cases, you're going to get hypothermia, you could get dehydration. But I think ultimately we could see people if there aren't some real immediate solutions.
It's rough. It's really rough. It's getting cold.
Welcome Homeless Life Stories.
Chicago at night, MiG-20 DFF. Up above, the $1 million towers still glow white. At their feet, someone is hugging their knees on a piece of wet cardboard, fighting sleep because they know if they drift off, they might never wake up again. This is a city of 2.7 million people, spending nearly $1 billion USD a year on housing and services, and yet around 65,000 people still have to live without even a single door to close behind them. If the person shivering at that bus stop tonight were your mother, your brother, would you accept calling this just normal for a big city? If, deep down, your answer is no way, stay with Homeless Life Stories, because Chicago in the winter of 2025 is not just their story, it's a test of conscience for all of us.
But I'm not going to starve to death, and I have a place where I can go and wrap up and keep warm.
Chapter 1. The Scale of the Crisis. By day, Chicago still sells itself as the city that never sleeps. By night, it feels like a giant factory has exploded, and the fragments are falling straight into the lives of 65,000 people every year. That number is enough to fill Soldier Field. But in real life, they only fill sidewalks, underpasses, park benches, and the train cars that run across the city at midnight. The winter wind of 2025 cuts along the edge of Lake Michigan like blades. On December 4, temperatures dropped to -20 DHF, cold enough to turn every breath into white vapor before it even has time to fade. The city immediately switched on its winter emergency mode. 280 warming centers opened inside libraries, police stations, community buildings, and parks. On TV, the mayor urged, if you see anyone at risk, call 311. The system was promoted like a giant blanket thrown over the city. But out on the streets, the wind still slices through every layer of fabric and through the gaps in policy itself. Sarah, 38, once lived in a small apartment on a quiet street in the Wicker Park neighborhood. Today, she's pulling a thin coat tight around herself on a bench near Division Street Station. Above her, the CTA trains screech past. Beneath her, the stone is as cold as metal. Each time the wind hits, her hands tremble, trying to disappear deeper into two empty pockets. I never thought I'd sleep outside in the city I was born in, she says softly, her voice hoarse from the cold. But here, there's nowhere else to go. And around Sarah, Chicago's 65,000 stories of homelessness over the year are scattered like old suitcases. 30% of them are children and teenagers. They still have to go to school, still do homework, but at night they lie on thin mats in shelters, listening to adults talk about housing wait lists the way you'd talk about a train that will never come. These numbers don't appear in any tourism brochure, but they hang in the air with every puff of white breath from the people standing in line outside the warming centers. Here, in a 20 DGF winter, the question is no longer, how beautiful is Chicago? But this, for a child born in this city, what do they have, besides their own breath, to stand between them and the cold tightening its grip night after night?
I was keeping an eye on him, watching him. I didn't see him move for probably a week, so I was concerned.
Chapter 2, A History of Inequality. This city has rebuilt itself from ashes more than once. After great fires, after waves of migration, after the steel mills and railroads turned Chicago into the industrial heart of America. But not everyone was rebuilt along with it. On old maps, red lines once tightly circled the neighborhoods deemed not worth investing in. Places where black residents and immigrants were pushed, denied loans, and shut out of opportunity. Those red lines no longer exist on paper, but they still live in the city's lowest median incomes, and in the neighborhoods where homelessness is rising the fastest. On a street in West Garfield Park, Marcus leans against a cold brick wall, hands buried deep in the pockets of his worn work coat. He used to be a mechanic at a nearby plant, where the pounding of steel presses throbbed like the heartbeat of the neighborhood. Last year, Corporal Nixon Silva, "I worked 20 years, he says, eyes drifting toward the row of gray houses across the street. Just one surgery and everything was gone. The house, the car, the bank balance. All that was left were the bills." He doesn't use the word collapse. He just shrugs, as if history has done this too many times to people like him. In Englewood, the median income is so low that a single economic shock can knock a family from renting to temporarily staying in just a few months. And that word temporary, for many people, stretches into years. Dry statistics about income, debt, and interest rates all pour down into one final point. Who will be the one sleeping on the night train, and who will only see them pass by through a warm window? Encourage the disheartened, help the weak, be patient with everyone. Chicago has built more high-rises, more commercial districts, more highways. But for neighborhoods like Englewood or Austin, it seems the only thing that's really been built is distance. Has history truly moved on, or has it just changed clothes and come back for the same people? If you believe the stories behind those old red lines deserve to be heard, please subscribe to Homeless Life Stories. Not for the algorithm, but so that the neighborhoods slowly disappearing from the map still have someone bearing witness to them. Chapter 3, Root Causes. In early December 2025, a new report showed a 12% increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness. The Chicago Coalition for the Homeless stressed, this is not a story of migrants flooding in. This is a structural crisis. The system has been exhausted by the shock of rising housing costs and the rollback of key supports. At the same time, a series of new HUD regulations tightened funding criteria, threatening to cut money for long-term housing programs. NPR Illinois warned if adjustments aren't made before mid-January, millions of dollars could disappear from the budget, and thousands of people currently in supportive housing could be pushed back onto the streets right as Chicago heads into winter. Here the reality is that for rent signs stay up for months, not because too many people are being selective, but because too many people are afraid to even call. Apartment. A 2-bedroom apartment runs from $1,900 to $2,100 a month, while many families survive on wages that can't withstand a single unexpected bill. All it takes is a factory cutting back shifts or a late paycheck, and suddenly the rent bill becomes the first deep cut into someone's life. In South Shore, old storefronts stare back through fogged glass, and help-wanted signs are as rare as a warm day in midwinter. Unemployment is not a number on a report here. It is every man, every mother standing outside a corner store, pulling their hood tighter as the cold wind whips their faces. While incomes stay flat, everything else climbs: rent, electricity, groceries. Between those numbers, even a small decision can fracture a life. Pay the rent or pay for medication, put gas in the car to get to work, or buy a warm coat for your child. The mental health system can't keep pace either. With roughly 1,200 therapists for 2.7 million residents, Chicago resembles an overwhelmed emergency room. Whoever screams the loudest is heard first. People who have just lost their housing and are carrying trauma on top of it often walk away with nothing more than a pamphlet, if they're lucky. The demand for low-income housing is roughly double the existing supply, which means every affordable unit becomes a silent competition between people who all have nothing left to lose. Chapter 4. The Human Cost. Uptown, 7 p.m. Wind from Lake Michigan slips through the cracks of old window frames, bringing with it a damp cold that clings to the skin. In a cramped family shelter on the 3rd floor, Rosa is carefully folding 2 thin coats while her 2 children sit on the bunk bed, coloring with a handful of donated pencils. Each child has a small carry-on suitcase, the kind meant for a weekend trip, but this is their entire life. "I just want a wall where I can stick my drawings," the 8-year-old girl says quietly, still holding a picture of an orange sun. At an age when she should be worrying about a math test, she is instead learning the curfew rules of the shelter and the schedule for lining up at dinner. Homeless children in Chicago do not show up in reports as neat, rounded numbers. They show up in classrooms wearing shoes with the soles coming apart, in hospitals with lungs inflamed from cold air leaking through drafty windows, in school transfer records so frequent that teachers can't remember their names. Every time a family has to move shelters, it's another time they lose friends. Lose their familiar seat in class, lose the feeling of "this is my place." "I hate this suitcase," a 10-year-old boy says, nudging the wheel with his foot. It always has to be ready. At night, shelter staff make one last round, checking doors, turning off extra lights. In the hallway, the sound of a child crying in a strange bed blends with the muffled arguments of exhausted adults. At the end of the corridor, a mother holds her child and whispers a short prayer. "Please lift up the weak." Then the next morning, everyone has to line up again as usual for breakfast, for roll call, to leave the shelter by the required time so the city can keep running. What do we want Chicago to teach its children about human worth? Are they only worth a suitcase that must always be ready to go? Or that every child deserves a door with their name on it? Do you believe these stories need to be heard and repeated until the system finally changes? Please subscribe to Homeless Life Stories so children like Rosa's no longer have to grow up feeling temporary. Chapter 5: City Response. More than $200 million a year are poured into housing, mental health, and housing first programs that are officially declared the right path. On paper, Chicago is doing what it's supposed to do. But on the sidewalk, the question still sits there. Why is this man still sleeping at the foot of the very building that manages that massive budget? At press conferences, maps, charts, and the keyword "one system" appear everywhere. The idea sounds admirable. Combine all shelter services into a single system so no one is left out. But in early December 2025, an internal report acknowledged a truth as cold as the wind off Lake Michigan. This system is short at least 4,000 beds. Lincoln Park Community Services has just announced it will shut down its outreach program entirely on December 31 because the money has run out. The very people who go out at night to look for those sleeping outside in the cold are about to be forced off the streets themselves, right when winter is at its harshest. It's not that we lack compassion, we lack funding, one staff member says quietly after the door closes. The city has another plan: merge the shelter system for new migrants with that for long-term homeless residents, hoping to optimize resources. It sounds reasonable, but the numbers betray the idea. You can't squeeze thousands more people into a system that is already short 4,000 beds. While memos are being shuffled between departments, in a West Side shelter, Rosa receives a notice. Her family's stay may have to be shortened because of a sudden surge in housing pressure. The effort is real. The gap is just as real. Chicago is not heartless. Chicago is trying. But sometimes, the distance between $1 billion strategic plan and a thicker blanket is simply the question of who dares to put people first before everything else. Chapter 6: Community Power. Evening in Pilsen. Snow falls thin as chalk dust over bright murals. The shops are closed, the train rattles overhead, but in a small church on the corner, the lights are still on. Inside, trays of hot food are steaming, and a long line of people waits in silence. A young volunteer, hands still streaked with paint from their day job, says softly, "I don't know how to fix the whole system. I just know that tonight, no one should go to sleep with an empty stomach." The night ministry parks its special bus at a corner in Uptown, opening its doors like a mobile rescue station. There are no microphones, no press conferences, only nurses checking cracked hands, a pastor gently asking, "Are you okay tonight?" and hot meals handed out one portion at a time. Every month, they serve thousands of meals across Chicago, not to replace the city's role, but to fill the gaps the city hasn't reached yet. In Rogers Park, On a Saturday morning cold enough to sting the skin, people stack bags of coats on folding tables set up on the sidewalk. Old jackets from the closets of teachers, students, and office workers are laid out neatly, free for anyone who needs one. These grassroots efforts don't make the front page. They don't solve the number 65,000. But they do something that numbers never can. They remind people experiencing homelessness that they are still seen, that someone still calls them by their name. A woman at the food line in Pilsen says, "What I need is not just a meal, it's the feeling that the world hasn't forgotten me." A city for all. The truth is, Chicago has enough resources. Nearly $1 billion a year for housing and related services, hundreds of community organizations, thousands of volunteers ready to roll up their sleeves. What's missing is not money, it's priorities. Every time the budget leans more toward clearing encampments than building homes, every time another program is cut because the funds ran out, every winter that passes with more names crossed off the morning checklists, the city chooses silence in front of its own conscience. But something else is also true. If the community demands it, the system will have to change. The City for All does not appear on its own. It is built piece by piece. If you are still watching at this moment, it means your heart has not gone numb to the stories on Chicago's sidewalks. Don't let them disappear when the video ends. Please subscribe to Homeless Life Stories so that every week, instead of just scrolling past faces in the cold, you can join us in calling them by their names, hearing their full stories, and reminding America of one simple truth: no one is born to sleep in the snow.